Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Hawaii Board of Nursing meeting for the month of February. We're going to start off with an informational video about how to participate in our virtual board meeting.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras.
Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
This time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Before we get started, I'm going to read some information about participating in our board meeting today related to testimony. If you wish to submit written testimony on any agenda item, please submit your testimony to nursing@dcca.hawaii.gov or by hard copy mail to the address listed in the agenda. We request submission of testimony at least 24 hours prior to the meeting to ensure that it can be distributed to board members. If you're participating by internet, to view the meeting and provide live oral testimony, please use the link at the top of the agenda. You'll be asked to enter your full name. The board requests that you enter your full name, but you may use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You will also be asked for an email address. You can fill in this field with any entry in a standard email format. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chair asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chair will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and then mute your microphone when you're finished. If you're attending by phone for audio only access, when the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate that you wish to testify by entering star and then 9 on your telephone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chair, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your telephone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you're finished speaking, please enter star and then 6 again to remute yourself. For both phone and internet access, when testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If the connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time to be posted on the board's website. And as always, instructions to attend State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may be found online. Also, as a reminder, we are broadcasting live on Olelo. And so board members, I would request a reminder that you make sure you hide all confidential information ahead of you because, high definition cameras and all that. All right, so I'm going to take a roll call, make sure we are here, establish a quorum so we can actually call the meeting to order. I am Carrie Oliveira, I'm the chair, I am present. Vice Chair, Diana Jill Riggs.
Present.
Karen Boyer.
Present.
Sherry Shields Hansen.
Present.
Bradley Kuhl. Present. Rebecca Moore. Actually, for our board members who are attending virtually, please indicate whether you're alone in a non-public location. So Rebecca.
I am alone and not in a public location.
And we do have
and I'm
one.
Present.
And what?
And I'm present.
I'm present. I thought she said pregnant. That's
Oh,
so.
definitely not.
Very exciting. We do have one board member who is excused. That's Terrence Aratani. We do have a quorum. The meeting is called to order. Okay. We are going to begin with agenda item number 1, which is the chair's report announcements. The only announcement I have is that the NCSB and the National Council of State Boards of Nursing and the National Forum of State Nursing Workforce Centers have been collaborating on the 2024 National Nursing Workforce Survey. We finished up I'm one of the co-authors on that paper. It is basically a giant comprehensive description of the workforce in the country. And so they expect to publish that issue as a supplement to the Journal of Nursing Regulation in May-ish or something-ish. So that's forthcoming. Pretty excited about that. So keep your eye out. That's it in the way of announcements. So we'll move on then to the approval of the open and executive session minutes for the December 5th, 2024 meeting. I did provide non-substantive comments. There were edits, typos to the executive office of the secretary prior to this meeting. Did anybody else have anything to discuss? We can go into executive session if you have anything you want to discuss in the executive session minutes. Seeing none, is there a motion? I will make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Seconded.
That's Bradley.
Bradley.
Thank you. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on then to agenda item number 4, 2025 legislative session, everybody's favorite time of the year. I will hand that over to the executive officer.
Sure. So beginning with item 4A, 2025, this is time for triage, a summary of best practices, state requirements, and successful efforts to reduce nurse staffing shortages. So this is a report that was promulgated by the Legislative Reference Bureau in response to a House concurrent resolution from last year. Basically, they were asked to create this report, this study on nurse staffing. And this is kind of just for the board's information, because as you can see from the agenda this year, there's quite a few bills that are related to nurse staffing, nurse patient ratios and stuff like that. But is there any discussion on this LRB report?
If you haven't read it, I recommend. It's an easy read and very informative. So I encourage you to do so.
Okay. Then let's move on to the bills. So I'm not gonna read the descriptions of the bills. I'm just gonna go through them item by item, maybe tell you the status of the bill, and then if there's any discussion or whether it's a bill that we're kind of just tracking because it, is tangentially related to the Board of Nursing and doesn't necessarily require anything of us or change our statute, then I'll let you know that as well. So starting from 4B, SB 8 relating to jury duty. This bill just passed out of HHS. Any discussion on this one?
No.
Moving on to SB 119 relating to nursing. This bill passed out of HRE. And this was the BSN degree program at UH Maui College. Okay. Moving on to SB 213 relating to children. This bill hasn't been heard yet. It's been referred to HHS and JDC/WHAM. Any discussion? Okay. Moving to SB 296 relating to minors. Hearing for this bill has been scheduled for tomorrow before HHS and PSM. Any discussion?
Hang on, let me think. No.
Moving to SB 305 relating to medical records. This bill has been referred to HHS and JDC. Any discussion? Okay, moving to SB 318 relating to genetic information. This bill has been deferred. Moving on to SB 368 relating to medical records. This bill has been referred to HHS and JDC. Discussion?
This is different from 305.
Double check if this is.
Similar, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar.
Sorry, what was the status on 368?
It's been referred to HHS and JDC, so not urgent. Moving to SB 424 relating to labor standards at healthcare facilities. This bill has been referred to LBT, HHS, and WHAM and JDC. Any discussion?
I have a quick question. The bill that we were, was there a House bill or a companion bill for this one? Or is this the one that was heard yesterday?
This isn't the one.
Okay,
Yeah, this one hasn't been heard.
So there's like different versions of the bill.
yeah,
I don't-
of course.
I don't know if there's companions, I forget.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah, this one I don't see a companion bill
Okay,
in the chart, yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Moving on to SB 482 relating to cognitive assessments. This one's gonna be heard by HHS on February 10th. Any discussion? Moving on to SB 947 relating to birth certificates. This bill has been referred to HHS and JDC. Any discussion? Moving to SB 1150 relating to healthcare. This bill has been referred to JDC and WHAM. Moving to SB 1203 relating to cognitive assessments. Referred to HHS, CPN, and WHAM. Any discussion? Okay. Moving to SB 1242 relating to nurses, this measure has been deferred. Moving to SB 1373 relating to administrative licensure actions against sex offenders. So this one, I would like to collect the board's position on. This did pass out of CPN with some non-substantive amendments. Basically, this allows the Board of Nursing, it's targeted to a bunch of different licensure boards that basically have, you know, a direct relationship, like a very close, intimate relationship with a patient or client. But basically, it allows the Board of Nursing to immediately revoke or refuse to renew, restore, or reinstate the license of a registered sex offender. So if someone's on the registry, they don't have to go through, you know, we don't have to go through the RICO process to revoke that license. They can immediately have their license terminated.
So currently there is a process to revoke.
Right.
Okay,
So
this just makes it easier.
so this was an instant process based on them being in the registry.
What was the bill number again, please?
This one is SB 1373.
I'm sorry, was this already passed?
It passed CPN
Okay.
with amendments.
Okay.
Let me check.
So while it is like, it can go to the board and the board can revoke, it can just be the author, the licensee is afforded the ability to contest the board's decision. There's the. They are still afforded due process after the board's decision.
Currently,
No.
Even with this.
Currently, the process would be. We would have to refer them to RICO. They would do the investigation and then it would go to and then it would come before the board in the form of a settlement agreement or a VFO. So
Allows or requires? The
it,
board.
the wording is shall in the
Yeah.
bill.
Okay, so when I read it, that got my hackles up a little bit because, you know, I'm imagining there are degrees of things that can get a person on a sex offender registry. Urinating in public, for example.
That's what I was thinking of too, that, for example.
And I would not contend that a person who got caught urinating in public at 2 o'clock in the morning, a block from an elementary school, would be necessarily considered a hazard to the public in the course of delivering nursing care. And that we would just automatically revoke or deny a license on the basis of that without, I feel like our process right now is designed so that we look at the totality of a person's application when we're deciding whether or not they're fit to practice nursing, including there are applicants who have various criminal histories. I would argue that we've seen things as problematic, more problematic than urinating in public, battery, right? Domestic violence, et cetera. And we look at the totality of an application before we decide, is this person a hazard to the public? And I don't know why we would necessarily single out sex offenses as an exemption to that process. I don't see a rationale for that.
Doesn't the bill says that they can be revoked? Does the bill say they have to be revoked?
The word is shall.
However, they can still grieve and then come,
Or can-
they still have due process after that.
What?
I think
Why?
backing
Because
up,
I think one thing I'd like to say is, and not.
Yeah. No, of course.
Isn't it important for us to like validate what the findings were from a court of law? I mean, a sex offender, it seems like that's a whole other thing that we're getting into. If they were deemed a sex offender.
right, so I'd like to back up to that.
Okay, please.
Because I think the bill, if I'm thinking of the same one, is only after they've been convicted under, I can't remember, the HRS is 843 or deemed a sex offender
Yeah.
under that law.
Mhm.
So I don't know if urinating in public.
Right.
Right, and so I'm
would
thinking,
That you be deemed a sex offender. So I don't know if you have to worry about the circumstances.
Mhm.
It's going to be a determination of whether that offense, urinating in public,
Mhm.
lands them on the sex offender category.
Mhm.
And I don't take those statutes lightly.
Right.
And so only after, yes, your circumstances deem you to be in that category, would it come to the board? Would it impact their license?
and then they have the process to say, you know what, hey, I was urinating, in public, blah, blah, blah. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Is-
totally.
Is then they can say, this I feel like is not going to take away my ability to be a good registered nurse or practitioner. That's how I see it. I see, let them do their thing. And then we don't have to worry about it. I mean, if they're convicted as sex offender, we don't have to help them. They need to then help themselves, is how I see it.
It's actually stemming from there was a licensee who held like, I think acupuncture and physical therapy license, who was convicted of being a sex offender. And I think the process to revoke was quite elongated. And to the public, it's like, why can't we just revoke it? He's a danger to the public. He's been convicted in a court of law. And I think this bill is in response to that. So I think this is trying to kind of navigate that middle ground of, we're protecting the public by immediately removing this person from practice, but this person is also afforded the ability to contest this. So if it is truly like urinating in public, then that can be put for the board to discuss at that point and decide, was this really something that needed, truly needs to be revoked? But I think the whole thing is getting this person out of practice immediately, and then the board can decide from there, because I think there's a lot more things than just.
I think your concerns will be addressed at the front end. Are they going to land in the category of violating the sex offender statutes? And I don't know if peeing in the pub at 2 a.m. is going to land you as a convicted sex offender. That argument will be at the front end by another adjudicating body, by the criminal courts. And only after, as Chelsea said, they would still be given their due process on the licensing universe.
That's, I would say, 50% of my concern. The other half of the concern is why sex offenses specifically,
It was
as opposed to.
stemming from the specific.
Well, sure, yeah, no, I get the origin. My question is, could the argument not be made for any kind of criminal conviction involving a violent offense potentially?
I'm sure it could be, but I think they're starting small, as most bills start with one thing and then you can add to it after the fact. So if,
I mean.
I think is my point, you know what I'm saying, is like, there's.
I hear you, but 80% of the bills.
Yeah,
Oh.
ooh, that hurt.
80% of the bills over there.
Yeah,
Originate from a newspaper report.
Sure.
Or whatever. So this one was civil B. Medical board had summary suspension
Yeah.
because of the Big Island doctor who left a scalpel in the back operation. So yes, could it be malpractice? Could it be any offense to the person? Could it be violence? Could it be just sex offenses? And that's how bills originate.
but I think it's just creating a process to expediently remove people from practice, and it's for the optics of public safety.
Right, so they're trying to do a summary suspension for sex offenses, and not just for the medical board, but like
It's all
29.
pretty much like medical or like ancillary.
Any
to
health
medical,
profession.
yeah.
yeah.
And I don't even understand some of the professions they capture.
Well, I mean, like so barbering cause, like,
Anybody in close contact with a person.
they do private events, right? Like, so you're gonna go to somebody's house or hotel room, you will be
Right.
isolated. with-
Yeah, I get that, but a dentist or a
I
dental.
mean, they deal with anesthesia.
That's true.
And sometimes they're not well-staffed.
Right.
Dental offices are not well-staffed.
So, I mean, I see the concern. I mean, you could argue that for guards, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, any profession will have some type of interaction with the public, but I think what this is seeking to do is, it is public protection at the end of the day. And I mean, not to say that sex offenses are any more concerning than like murder, but
Right.
You know, I mean, not to make this good, but I think it's concerning, I think. That's. Uh-huh.
I have a question. So when a person redoes their license, it's every 2 years. So if somebody becomes a sex offender, we might not know until they renew their license. So they could be practicing for a whole year as a sex offender. Are there any stops in place to? I know that, like, I don't know about Oahu, but in Hawaii, on our island, they put in the newspaper of everybody who's been like DUI, sex offender, and now, yeah. So you would know. So how would we protect the public if they've been practicing for a year as a sex offender and then their license comes back up and then they're like, oh, well, I've been convicted of a felony. And I guess that goes to all cases too. Like, oh, unless you're in jail or prison, and then you can't obviously renew your license.
Well, I mean, as licensees, this is under 436B, are obligated to report any type of conviction to your licensing board. That is part of your, laws and rules for and this is all licenses under PBL. It is a complaint-driven process, so that's how we normally find out. So if the licensee doesn't report it to us, then the public will, or civil beat will tell us.
Okay.
Chelsea, is
Okay.
this bill or a similar bill also requiring a court to,
Yes,
a court official to report to the licensing authority
I don't recall.
if there's any conviction?
I don't recall reading it, but I know that the contingency is they have to have been convicted. So that it would have been in court record, and I don't know that it's necessarily publicized. I mean.
No, not necessarily publicized, but I think it obligates or requires the court to notify.
I don't recall. I mean, that may be a different bill, but that's not the one.
Yeah, I've read hundreds, so I don't know.
I don't
But
recall.
I'm thinking, oh, judiciary is gonna have a issue with that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't recall a reporting requirement to the licensing, not for this one. I mean, I could have missed it, but I don't recall reading
Yeah, I
the
could be.
draft.
Thinking of a different bill.
But yeah, so that, I mean, just to explain, I understand how this comes across at first blush, but it is public protection at the end of the day. So it's up for board discussion.
I do want to hear what Laura Reichart has to testify on this particular
Hi,
issue.
thank you. Sorry for my hand up and down 17 times. There was internet issues. Thank you, Laura Reichart, Hawaii State Center for Nursing Director. I just related to the very last set of comments. When we were working to establish the criminal background check, there was a wrap back process that I just wanted to remind the board of, and I don't know what the current status is, but that was supposed to give a real-time notification of any criminal activity, either federally or locally. So it doesn't rely on the comments of, or the attestation. There should be that notification from the court system through the criminal background check process.
So we're currently not in the wrap back process, and the reason why is we do not have the staffing to process every single alert that will come from that. It's just not feasible with our licensing population. And maybe at some point we can hire more staff to monitor specifically just that, because what we understand is that it's like any arrest, any conviction, and some of it might be like a speeding ticket or, so I while it would help us, I guess, in that vein, I don't think everybody's a sex offender. So I don't know that we would even catch it if we're getting like hundreds of these emails every day too. So,
Okay, so you need the board's position on this one?
I do, yes.
Okay. Thoughts? Board, there's a nodding there from Rebecca.
I have no issue.
Okay.
I have no issue.
No issue.
It is the
No
consensus that we are in support of the measure.
for the public protection.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Alex. Chelsea?
Yes. Okay. And we'll move on to SB 1596, relating to nursing. Public discussion.
This is which one?
This is SB 1596 relating to nursing. So this is right requiring.
The departmental to.
So. Right, so yesterday, this bill was heard in front of HHS. They amended this bill to require the Board of Nursing to identify a facility in each of the counties that has the capability to establish a Pearson VUE test center.
Board.
My immediate reaction to this bill was I'm confused by how we might, through a legislative action, dictate the business practices of a private entity, was my first concern about the bill. My second thought in response to the bill was, this is not to dismiss that we understand that it's a burden, particularly for the neighbor islands, to come to Oahu to test, but NCSBN is actively in the process of testing and getting ready to roll out. I don't know what their time horizon is at this point, but realistically, within the next 2 years, we should see the advent of remote proctoring for the NCLEX, which would effectively solve this problem for, I would say, a minimum of 85% of test candidates on the neighbor island. So I think I would like to see how that rolls out before we commence to, I don't know, trying to find a way to compel a private company to change its business model.
And NCSBN has a website, it's 2026, they didn't say when in 2026, but it is next year that they're,
In the grand scheme of things is impending practically, right? For the intensity of how much it takes to make sure that they have the technology to secure the exam, which is their primary concern. So that seems to me very close on the horizon that we might just.
and you guys reported on this at the last annual
Correct.
meeting. So, I mean, I remember when I went to an annual meeting 2 years ago and they were forecasting like 5 to 10 years. So they are a lot more, they're faster than what they were forecasting 3 years ago, so.
Other discussion.
On the face of this bill, I don't support using state resources to force a private company to do something that the private company has not deemed a need at this point. So I wouldn't support the bill.
And then, there was, I don't know for like people on the mainland, do they run into similar situations, like lack of testing centers?
Yes,
Absolutely. So from within the state of California, you may have to drive 3 or 4 hours to get to the nearest testing center. And that's been historically the way it has run, and many people take their licensing exam every day. without a problem. Some states you have to go across the state line. If you're in a compact state, you know, if you live in Minnesota, you might have to go to Iowa or vice versa to take the test. So this is something that seems to be working, quite honestly. So
What
if
island
it
are
ain't
you from,
broke,
Sherry?
don't fix it. What?
What island are you from?
I'm from the state of, Hawaii. Hawaii.
Hawaii, okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I'll just mention that too. The numbers in Kauai would be very low.
Right.
I mean, let's realistically, we graduate 18 to 20 students a year. So you would be making a testing center for 20, at the max, 20 students. And so that just doesn't make sense kind of in any way.
Correct.
So that's pretty much, I agree with you.
Mhm.
Rebecca, was that a hand up? No. Do you have
No,
thoughts
I
on this?
agree. I'm from Kansas and I had to drive an hour to go to a testing site and it's cross state lines. So it was an issue. So I'm
But not
excited for
really.
this.
It was an
What?
issue, not really. You know
Not,
what
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could get to one. I could get to one.
Okay, so what do you want us to?
But I mean, with strong, maybe not outright opposed, but maybe just provide comments of strong concerns, or would you be amenable?
I think what Bradley said was very well said. I agree with what he said, that using state resources for a commercial entity, if you will.
Mhm.
And in light of the fact that NCSBN is probably gonna handle this on their own
Okay, so
in 2026, as stated on the.
opposed then?
So, sure, I don't know.
It's up to you.
My inclination is to be more neutral than that, I guess, but I mean, let me say this differently. I hear the board's opposition. Do you guys have any concerns with us saying that we oppose it?
I don't have any concerns, but I think it's totally fine to say that, you know, we have comments and here's our comments. They don't have to be opposed
Or against.
per se.
So,
But we can say that, you know, our board does express concern of using state resources to compel an independent company to do something that is not within their plans.
What's your guys' preference? Comments with concerns or opposition?
I think our expertise, I think we're fair in saying we oppose it. Because we're the one that have the knowledge on how many students this would affect.
Right.
And the NCSBN upcoming remote. So I feel unless I think we should oppose it. And that, I think they're asking us for our expertise, right? And that's our expertise, that it's
Why we
not,
were testifying.
it's not really a great idea, in my opinion.
Can I
So,
just say, language, in this particular case, language is not important to me.
Okay, indifferent. We are indifferent as to
Yeah, so-
opposition versus comments?
Yep, correct.
Anybody have a strong opinion on the matter outside of Sherry? Let's go oppose that.
okay. Okay, thank you, Corey.
Let's move on to HB 62 relating to healthcare facility nurse staffing. This bill being referred to HLT, LAB, in. It's like with the other nurse staffing bills, we'll just be tracking these and then provide with updates at future meetings. Okay. 248, relating to the medical records, it's been referred to HLT and AJ. Any comments?
Why are there so many bills related to medical records?
I have no idea.
Right, moving to HB 303 relating to healthcare preceptors. This bill will be heard on Friday by ECD.
What is this one about?
This is
Expanding the healthcare
Preceptor.
to other
Yeah.
professions.
to HB 311 relating to general excise tax exemption.
It's real quick, going back to 303. Are you guys going to provide testimony?
No, I think we're just tracking this one.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Okay, 311.
Yes, 311 relating to general excise tax exemption. Was referred to HLT, ECD, and FIN.
There was a bill last year that passed related to a GT exemption, wasn't there?
Yes, however, that bill last year was basically confined to TRICARE, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Okay.
So the GE tax bills that are coming up are request and dental services, by the way. For medical and dental services. The bills that are coming up this year are getting rid of GET for all medical services.
Okay.
No matter who your insurer is.
Check.
And just to remind the board, Hawaii and I believe perhaps New Mexico are the only places that tax healthcare in the way that we do. All other states in the country do not tax medical services at all.
We'll be very interested to see how this one goes.
It'll be interesting because the tax people, DOE tax or whatever they're called, were opposed last year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with these bills this year.
Well, I guess we will find out.
One last thing I do want to mention, last year's bill is not in effect yet.
When does it become effective?
In, I believe, January 1, 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, moving on to everyone's favorite HB 897 related to the nurse licensure compact. Bill's been referred to HLTs, Lab, CPC, and FIN.
That's a lot of referrals.
Yes, it is.
I would appreciate if the board would oppose this bill. We're in a different position than we were last year.
In what way, Bradley?
In what way are we in a different position?
Yeah.
This particular bill, from my understanding, is not part of the governor's package, as it was last year.
All right. So what would be the position or the rationale behind the opposition?
I think that there can be several elements and examples pulled from our public discussion last year at this time, specifically relating to issues with various states, one in particular with the example that was provided by our chair last year that stated that a home state had an encumbrance on a individual's state license, but never applied that encumbrance on their multi-state license, which essentially would allow that person to use that multi-state license that is clean to practice anywhere in the country that has a compact relationship. And so in the particular case that was noted by our chair last year, luckily, because we don't have license compact in this state, that particular person was caught through our process.
Okay. I would also add that this year we also have the temporary permit, which
Correct.
was passed. So that's currently active. And then in July, we're rolling out a temporary permit that can be obtained at the same time that you're applying for a full license, so that there's no, gap in between those two periods.
I mean, at this point, I really don't trust other states.
The only other, this is sort of you guys are gonna tell me not to worry about money because that's what everybody says, don't worry about money. But if you guys have been looking at, if you look at the 2024 geographic reports of licenses that's posted to PVL's website, there's been a weirdly high spike in the number of individuals who reside out of the state who have been licensed as LPNs or RNs in the past year. And every single one of those licenses translates to dollars. And the financial evaluation, I would venture to guess, I wasn't involved in that, but I don't think NCSBN would have had a reason to predict the huge volume of increase in licenses when they did the financial impact analysis the last time we did this. And so I think that we're in a little bit of a different financial landscape than we were last time because of the strange spike in number of licensees. So I think it warrants going back and looking at the potential financial impact to PVL and RICO in particular, in deciding to do away with all those people's licensees.
I think the stronger, if we could, because they don't care about
Sure.
financial impact, but the stronger rationale is that you've created other
And
pathways to create access, so the NLC is
The
not.
implementation of the temporary permit.
Right,
I
is,
think
is not,
the strongest thing.
yeah.
Also, it is NCSBN as somebody who is working on the National Nursing Workforce Survey with NCSBN, I had a conversation with the Director of Research at NCSBN. And one of the things we asked him was, what is NCSBN's plan to research the impact to a workforce for joining the Nurse Licensure Compact? And he looked at me and said, we would love to. This is a priority of NCSBN's. We do not have a mechanism to actually collect any data. So we don't have a way to study workforce impact. So the presupposition that the impact would be implemented in a state as a workforce solution is not evidenced per NCSBN.
Which also shows the holes between the reporting between state to state.
Correct.
That's another indicator that the reporting, like you say, is not.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know how they would be able to track it. There's no mechanism for us.
There's no data collection.
Yeah, so you.
Exactly.
I think one last thing that I would add about this particular bill is I have no desire to get a multi-state license, but if Hawaii did put that plan into practice, my fees for getting my Hawaii license per last year's bill, and I suspect it's the same with this bill, would go up.
Whether or not you got a multi-state license.
Yeah, yeah.
It costs you more to get a license.
So we're all gonna pay for it.
Correct. Because DCCA had not come to the table with a better plan or option. That they would pass those costs of implementation on to all licensees. And I take significant issue with that.
So if I can recap the conversation to this point, we've identified, let's call it, Hawaii's single state licensing process is more stringent, apparently, than that of the licensing process for multi-state licensure. There is we acknowledge that the temporary permit bill that was passed last year really essentially creates the pathway for expedient licensure that the compact was intended to solve. There is potential impact to nurses who don't have a multi-state license, the cost of their licensing increase, and that per NCSBN, there's no evidence that there's no way to study the workforce impact of joining the compact. Is that an accurate summary of the things that we've discussed?
Very nice.
The board's position then is?
Can I quickly ask
Absolutely.
Diana and Rebecca, just to verify you're in agreement with those? Or
I agree.
I agree.
I agree in opposing. And it is unfortunate that they don't have a mechanism to track that.
Yes.
Hopefully in the future.
It's because they wrote the rules. The problem is we're too far into it, right? There's like 42 jurisdictions in it now. There's no baseline data. But they wrote the rules very specifically to not require a nurse to report where they're working. So there was never a way to capture that information, sort of by design. So, okay, so Rebecca says oppose, Bradley says oppose, Sherry,
Oppose.
Karen,
Oppose. Oppose.
that's oppose the Nurse Licensure Compact by the Board of Nursing. Ooh.
For the reason.
Can I ask a question though? We're not gonna include the financial impact.
Correct.
Okay. I agree with that.
They don't care about the.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So I agree with not including it.
Thank you for the discussion. Then moving on to the last bill, HB 1244, relating to labor standards at healthcare facilities. This bill was deferred. And so lastly, before we conclude.
Does deferred generally mean dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For this year.
Okay.
They can resurrect it next year, though.
I love a zombie bill. Anyway, sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So just wanted to ask if we do need someone to help us with testimony to be able to come up and testify. If there's anyone that would be willing to help us out with that, I know it's a bit arduous, but it would be very helpful. We would try to testify on our own if possible, but it would be nice to have someone in the wings available to help.
And perhaps provide nuance on board positions, you know, like we oppose, but maybe there was a nuance that we're missing in our testimony that maybe it would be better if it's a licensed member because they can speak to the nuances within the profession. So the providing board position, possibly testifying on something that's like a very nitty-gritty nuance, yeah.
I do have a question. Because I certainly have my own independent mind. And I suspect the testimony written at least would need to be vetted. Is that correct or not correct?
Do you mean by?
It has to be reviewed by,
By the department.
correct. And if the legislators ask questions, I cannot vet my answer in the moment.
I think you're limited to 2 minutes.
Oh, but there.
I think he's not, I think he can say a lot of words in 2 minutes, I think, is that the words he's allowed to say.
For sharing testimony, yes, you're given like a minute, right? But if legislators ask questions, that dialogue can go on for some time.
Right.
And I've got my, personal professional opinions.
Okay, so let's assume that in order to do this, you need to be willing to represent the board's position.
And remember your hat, so you're representing the board essentially.
I could do it.
Go for it.
I have some flexibility. There's one day on the 14th, or no, it's not. Yeah, there's a couple Fridays. I don't have flexibility in time, but I do have some flexibility. I think I could present the board's position, be neutral, and I'm pretty protected. In my position or whatever,
I mean,
and I'm a
most
licensed.
likely with the bills this year, we probably won't have you testify, but it's more to get like opinions. So we have board position, but maybe we need a little bit more information, and so you would provide that for us. So
That's fine.
And I would be happy to read what was, or.
I can assist, just know that that is my concern.
I mean, we can have multiple as long as it's under quorum and we can reach out to, but it's just helpful because you know how the legislature is, the hearing notice comes out and there was an
Oh, yeah.
amendment and we're like,
Yep.
oh, no.
It's tomorrow at 2:45.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically what it is. It's just if, in case like we have an amendment in the language and we're like, the board didn't address this amendment, then we would need.
Does the board have any objection to allowing Karen Boyer to testify on the board's behalf? You have consensus.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen.
And then just to note, that was taken out of order from the, so that was
Oh.
item 7.
Oh, yes, that is correct. That was agenda item number something.
Yeah.
It's not on my agenda.
Yeah.
What item was it?
7.
7.
The
Thank
very
you.
last thing. Oh. I think, right? 7.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder that we did take the agenda out of order. Apologies. Okay. Anything else for our executive officers?
No.
Any questions to the executive officers from the board members? Any member of the public wishing to testify on that agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. There's no one wishing to provide oral testimony.
Fabulous. We'll move on then to our next agenda item, which is reports from Hawaii nursing organizations. We will begin with the Hawaii State Center for Nursing.
Aloha, Laura Reichart, Hawaii State Center for Nursing Executive Director. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for that very meaningful discussion. It's nice to hear the dialogue in public spaces. I think it helps everybody learn how to consider policy. So I really appreciate the dialogue today. In addition to the bills of which you all have covered all of the ones that Center is following by and large, we do have a number of other initiatives that are undergoing. We will be convening a community conversation on February 19th to identify our goals for our strategic plans. Interestingly, and I think relevant to maybe future discussions with the Board of Nursing, some of the high-level topics include AI and technology, continued discussion about leadership and mentorship, a lot of emphasis on professional development, and then, of course, that nursing education and then entry to practice pipeline. So those topics remain very relevant. It will be a big year for us in terms of data. And of course, we always use data to support what we do and how we do it. So early in the first quarter of this year, we will be releasing our nursing workforce projections. And they're pretty remarkable, and I'm really excited to present them to the public. We will be having an event in late March, I believe.
April 4th.
April 4th. It will be April 4th, and we will be inviting members of the public, so we hope that we have some of your presence as well. We will also be launching our strategic plans, of course, and then we will have our biggest data event of the year in collaboration with you all, which is the fielding of our nursing workforce supply survey. So I just want to thank you for your partnership. I think it's worthwhile for us to reconnect because you all have had so many transitions with your team. So just kind of get on the same page. So I'll reach out for a meeting for that. And then I just want to give you a little bit of news related to my presence at the next meeting. I will be gone. I will be in New Zealand studying how they approach nursing workforce. Some of the topics that we've been dealing with and you all have discussed today are really big. And I don't know if we have strategies in the United States or in Hawaii. And I'm hoping that we can look to our neighbors that have a lot of similarities, and New Zealand does. So I have a really nice opportunity through the Omidyar Fellowship to have funded travel. And I will be exploring that in February 23rd to March 21st. So please wish me luck. And I look forward to reporting back on what I learned.
Do you expect to send a delegate to report on your behalf at the March meeting?
I normally do, yeah. I normally do, so I expect that there will be somebody. I'll ask the team who's available.
Laura, I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say on New Zealand. I'm actually licensed in New Zealand as an RN.
Really?
Yes.
That's unexpected.
I guess they've made headways in their APRN policies as well, so I'll share that.
Yeah.
Any questions for Laura? Thank you so much, Laura. We appreciate you. Okay, we will move on then to our report from the Hawaii American Nurses Association.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. And my video was working earlier and again now. I don't know. There. Okay, so I'm the executive director of Hawaii American Nurses Association. We currently have 456 members, hoping to expand that. In December, just kind of going back a few months, we haven't met in a while. We had the leadership summit in DC with the presidents and executive directors around the nation for Hawaii, for ANA. And there was many different discussions of what's to come. We have a new CEO and new leadership up in ANA. So things are kind of moving and shaking and getting kind of shuffled around and in a better path in the future. There's lots of discussions, as I'm sure everyone is concerned about, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Very heated discussions amongst all the states that were present, and just why we didn't back certain candidates for certain things. So going along that's already said and done. We've signed a statement along with about a dozen or so other states that supported the fact, we didn't name names, but we supported a candidate for the Secretary of HHS to be one that is for science, for evidence-based practice, and along those lines, and not an anti-vaxxer. So hopefully, I don't know, we put the statement out there, and we'll just see what comes with that. So Hawaii ANA did represent nurses, and we went to the opening day at the Capitol here in Honolulu. We had a bunch of students with us, so it was wonderful. We walked around and saw some of representatives, and they loved that we came in with the future of nursing. We met with several representatives that day, and we actually had a follow-up meeting with Representative Andrew Garrett Takuya. Garrett, he is representative of higher education. So we just kind of met with him one-on-one to just help with testimony for support for some of the bills. We did provide some testimony. We're following a lot of the ones that you had mentioned earlier. Some that we gave testimony on was HB 1244, safe staffing, HB 617, Maui College going from ADN to BSN, HB 303, pre-separate tax credits, HB 903, student health bronchodilators, HB 756, the teen tobacco bill, and some other bills related to firearms. We just sponsored the State of Reform Conference that was in Hawaii the beginning of January. That was an amazing, wonderful conference. And one of our directors at large spoke on a panel in that conference as well. We're also collaborating with IVAT, the Institute of Violence, Abuse, and Trauma, that will be happening here at the Convention Center in Honolulu, April 7th through 10th. And that I'll give you more information on that as it comes. But that's just kind of a wrap up of what we're doing. We have a whole new, well, not a whole new, but we have a new board of directors this year that started January 1st. President Denise Cohen is a new president, and she's leading us in great, into a great future. We just had our strategic planning meeting on January 25th. So thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate you giving us the time to share.
Sure. Does anybody have any
questions?
Yes, I have a question. Elizabeth, is your new board posted on a website so we can learn who they are?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last report is going to be from the Hawaii Association of Professional Nurses, aka HAPN, Jeremy Creekmore.
Good morning, everyone. I know it's been a couple of months, so thank you. So some things that have happened in HAPN. We installed some new members of our board. There is a new president-elect, Dr. Patricia Burrell, so I want to congratulate her. And hopefully, if everything goes as planned, my 4-year term of a 1-year term at HAPN will be coming to an end at the end of it, but I will enjoy every minute of chatting with you guys up until that point. So with HAPN, we are, of course, focused on our legislative goals. This is a very exciting and fun time for me, at least, in this. I love doing this stuff, but we're focused on bills that are working toward increasing access to care, maintaining APR and scope, provider neutral language. We remain incredibly opposed to the nurse license compact, and I'm not going to soapbox it, but just a tidbit as well on patient safety. There was language in that bill that I saw, and I'll double check to make sure it's accurate, that if I read it correctly, would not even have reporting of those nurses being in the state within 30 days. So in other words, if they came in within a couple of weeks and left, they would be long gone if anything happened, and it wouldn't, I don't think it would be on the purview of the state of Hawaii to institute any kind of action on that at that point. So, you know, in addition to the $1 million, nearly $1 million shortfall, it'll be passed on to us in the union busting capacity of that bill. We remain opposed, and I will be providing plenty testimony as needed with that. Something that came up that really wasn't on my agenda per se until I saw some information this morning. I will be raising this with my board, and I've figured I would just mention it here so it's on the radar of the Board of Nursing. Google has apparently crafted an AI called Nurse Avery that's supposed to be an AI meant to interact with, and you know, I'm sure HAPN would have tremendous concern, and we'll chat it over with the board at our next meeting, of the implications that could potentially have for patient care as well as providers. Should any false information or something come up, I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm all alleged at this point, but something that just came on our radar this morning, and that's something we'll be looking into, and I'll let you guys know what we found out as well. So thank you guys again, and have a wonderful rest of your month.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy? Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, Jeremy. All right. At this time, we have arrived at agenda item 6, I think it is, to consider applications. So, at this time, I would like to move that the board move into executive session in accordance with HRS 92-4 and 92-5 to consider and evaluate personal information relating to individuals applying for professional vocational licenses and to consult with the board's attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Who was that second, by the way? Was that Jill?
Oh,
Oh, Karen, thank you. And we are in exec.
It's.
Okay, are we back? We're back. Okay, so we're gonna resume the agenda on the item of applications. I think we're on item number 6. So the first thing I'd like to do is make a motion to approve the ratification lists for LPNs, RNs, and APRNs as appended to the agenda for today's meeting. Is there a second?
This is Bradley second.
I will take Jill's second since she's proximally closer to me, and so we'll take Jill's second. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay, as it relates to applications for registered nurses, the board is going to defer the application for Lynette de los Reyes for additional information. We are going to defer the application for Carlene Guillaume for additional information. Is that what you need me to say? Or do we need to specifically say we invite the applicant to appear? Additional information? Defer. Okay, so is there a motion related to the request to remove conditions from the license for Caressa Bar?
Right, this is Jill. I make a motion to approve to remove the conditions of Superintendent Vaughn's application in her license.
Is there a second?
Karen seconds.
Thank you, Karen. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Is there a motion related to the RN application for Stephanie Williams?
This is Jill. I make a motion to approve the RN application for Stephanie Williams.
Is there a second?
Bradley second.
Thank you. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay, and is there a motion related to the application for Lori Miller? Move to approve.
I move to approve. This is Jill. I move to approve the application for RN licensure for Lori Miller.
Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on the motion?
Do we need a second?
Oh, you need a second. Yeah, you sure do. Thank you, board members, for your assistance. Who would like to second this motion?
This is Karen. I'll put-
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, for the second. Does any board member wish to vote no, recuse themselves, or abstain from voting on that motion?
This is Bradley. I vote no.
Okay, so we're gonna do a roll call vote on this one. The chair votes yes. The motion is to approve. So the chair votes yes. Jill Riggs,
Vice Chair votes yes.
Karen Boyer,
Yes.
Chair Shields Hanson,
Yes.
Bradley Quo,
No.
Rebecca Moore.
Yes.
Yes. The ayes have it, the motion carries. And that concludes the agenda. Our next board meeting will be on Thursday, March 6th, 2025, 9 a.m., same place, same time. This meeting will be followed by a meeting of the board's education committee, so stick around if you have any interest in that. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. We hope you have a great day. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Chair.